So a few days ago, I made a video about how France was trying to get Canada and the UK to recognize the state of Palestine alongside with them in a joint announcement. However, Canada and the UK were not ready at that time to do so. However, just a few days later, Keir Starmer came out and said the UK would recognize Palestine if Israel did not agree to a ceasefire, if they did not stop starving the Palestinians. This I personally thought was vile, disgusting, and I honestly wish he just didn't say anything at all, because the fact that you're conditioning the recognition of Palestinian statehood on Israel's actions, meaning that you're taking it totally out of the control of the hands of the Palestinians themselves. And it's just evil to say oh, we'll recognize you while you're starving, but if you stop starving, we won't recognize you. We'll let you go back to being an occupied, apartheid, colonized group. It's just disgusting, frankly. He shouldn't have said anything at all, or he should have just said, we're recognizing them unconditionally. So I thought Keir Starmer's announcement really sucked, honestly, and didn't really help how I feel about him. But Mark Carney then the next day, he came out and said that Canada will be recognizing the Palestinian state. Now, Mark Carney also, in this announcement, basically says that there are certain standards, there are conditions on his announcement as well. But at the very least, I still think that it sucks. I still think that it should be an unconditional announcement, no matter what, because the Palestinian people deserve sovereignty and, control over their own destiny and statehood and rights. But the conditions that Canada has had for this deal is basically the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much needed reforms. So at least, even though I still think it should be an unconditional announcement, this is, in my opinion, a lot better than Keir Starmer's announcement, because Keir Starmer's announcement just implies that Israel can take action to continue denying Palestine of its statehood, of its recognition by the UK, whereas at least the Canadian announcement is basically saying, okay, we're gonna do it because the Palestinian Authority has agreed to these terms. Again, I still think that sucks overall, but in comparison to what the UK has said, it's a million times better. Now, this does come in the wake of a report that just came out the other day. CBC reported on it, which I was very impressed with, frankly, because CBC has not necessarily been a great voice reporting on this conflict, especially at the start. They were very much giving the more pro-Israel, pro-Zionist perspective, or both sidesing it. They've gotten better over time as it's just become more undeniable that Israel is the villain here, that they are just committing a genocide and ethnic cleansing in real time. But this was actually a really great article. I implore you to go read it all, especially if you're Canadian, about how despite the fact that Ottawa and the government, both under Trudeau and Carney, has said oh, we're not sending new arms to Israel, and that is true in an extent, because they have cut off new permits for defense contractors in Canada to send weapons to Israel. What they have not done is cut off the old contracts, and that is something that they deeply need to do, because as we see in this article here, Canada has sent, I think it's some 400,000 munitions to Israel since they cut off those new permits. But whatever the number is, it's very high. June 2025 alone saw 15,000 units of parts and accessories of military weapons. Definitely go read the whole article. There's also a breakdown, if you read the full report that this article is based on, of where the shipments are coming from. Some are coming from the city that I live in, Halifax, which was really disheartening to read. I emailed my MP imploring her to kind of speak up against this and to speak out on behalf of canceling the existing permits, because cutting off new permits is a step, but when you're still shipping hundreds of thousands of munitions, that is still a horrible look when you're doing that to a country that is committing a genocide. The fact that I know that Canadian munitions are helping to aid and abet this genocide as a Canadian citizen, that horrifies me. That's horrific. I think it's disgusting. And now again, it's private Canadian companies, not the Canadian government itself, who are doing these shipments. But the government needs to take control here. The government needs to step in, block these private companies from doing it. I don't care about any free market capitalist who's going to complain about government overreach. Fuck that shit. This is different. This is a genocide. The government should have the final say here, and they need to go to these defense contractors and say, we're revoking your permits. You're not allowed to ship a single munition to Israel. So while Canada is making minor steps on this issue, I think they just need to go the extra mile. They need to completely remove their support material militarily or diplomatically from what Israel is doing. Now, one of the big reasons it took Canada so long to even get to the point of recognizing statehood, because I do believe this would have happened long ago if it weren't for the fear of U.S. U.S. punishment, or U.S. I'm trying to think of like a U.S. response, but I'm forgetting the word, like U.S. repercussions. But clearly, I don't think that's a valid fear that should have actually stopped them. I think we should have been brave long ago and just done it despite any fear of U.S. retaliation. That's the word. Okay, I was blanking. U.S. retaliation. And yeah, it is true that hours after Canada said they would recognize the state of Palestine, Trump came out and said, wow, Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada. Fuck you, Donald Trump, you piece of shit. We do not give a fuck what you think. We do not give a fuck. I then saw, I think he said he's going to have 35% tariffs on us. Trump increases tariffs on Canada to 35%, seemingly jacking them up even higher because of this. Well, guess what, Donald Trump? Fuck you. Free Palestine. We don't care that you're a Israel-controlled bigot. We're going to go ahead and keep doing this because the Palestinians deserve their statehood. And this comes at a time where I said, France just recognized them. The UK, even though theirs was a lot more disgusting, hopefully they change it and don't have it to be conditional, but still the fact that they said they would do it as of now is another country moving towards it. And then also Germany, according to their foreign minister, and Portugal have also made moves towards recognizing a Palestinian state. So this is seemingly a movement that is gaining traction amongst European and Western countries who are terribly late to this, but better late than never. That doesn't excuse their support for Israel materially, diplomatically, and otherwise. And again, action should have been taken long before this, but just anything that's going to help to bring this situation to an end, to give the Palestinian people the statehood and sovereignty they deserve, and to stop the genocide and famine, I will take them as very small wins in the face of a horrific humanitarian situation.